Zombie dragons. While containing two of the coolest tropes in fantasy literature all in one package, they also have some sweet benefits. Undeads typically have immunity to charms, poison, sleep effects, paralysis, stunning, diseases, and instant death effects in fantasy-type games. But zombie dragons, on top of all of this, also just have straight-up immunity to magic. Of course, WoW doesn't really follow standard tropes, but they do incorporate them into the game in interesting ways. For example, the number 10 dragon on this list incorporates all standard fantasy tropes perfectly in her boss fight, and that is, of course, Sindragosa.
You are fools who have come to this place! The icy winds of Northrend will consume your souls!
One of the last bosses in Icecrown Citadel. In her fight, she puts out an ability called Unchained Magic, which really punishes magic casters, as any spell cast while under the effect gives a stack of instability, which, when it explodes on the target after not casting for a while, does a ton of AoE damage, forcing the caster who has the stack to get as far away from everyone as possible. Since bosses can no longer have straight-up immunity to spells like some did in vanilla and BC, this mechanic really stays faithful to the fantasy trope surrounded around fighting a skeleton dragon, in that magic doesn't work very well against them.
Suffer, mortals, as your pathetic magic betrays you!
And then you've got the chill to the bone mechanic. Usually creatures who use frost magic are strong against melee opponents who have prolonged exposure to them. This mechanic has a 20% chance to apply a dot every time you land a melee ability, once again perfectly capturing the theme of fighting an undead frost dragon. All of this in addition to a tail smash and cleave, staples of fighting any dragon. Sindragosa is just a perfect example of including standard fantasy tropes into a boss fight while not actually putting them into the boss fight, and more the spirit of the tropes instead. It's not something you see very often, and boy, did people hate this fight because of it. Now, the reason I have Sindragosa as number 10 is because she's too obvious of a choice number 1, and I like to put my list in pretty arbitrary orders anyway. Number 9, Chillmaw. Chillmaw is better known for its Hearthstone card because it's pretty good, even though it has the artwork of Sindragosa on the card and not actually Chillmaw. Chillmaw in WoW leads a cult raiding party trying to stop the Grand Tournament, but is unsuccessful as her flavor text in Hearthstone attests to. Chillmaw keeps trying to ruin the Grand Tournament, and she would have done it too if it weren't for those dang kids. Number 8, Nightbane. Nightbane was considered the true final boss of Karazhan back in the day due to being a difficult fight, but he also required a long-ass quest chain to summon. Good old BC attunements. Anyways, before he became Nightbane, he was actually a blue dragon named Arkanagos. Legend has it that he went to Karazhan during the First War to warn Medivh that something dark was happening in the tower, and that he should abandon it at once. Little did he know, Medivh was the one responsible for it. When Medivh refused to leave, the dragon tried to take him by force. The two fought. Medivh cast a spell to burn him from the inside out. Arkanagos then flew into Deadwing Pass and died a very painful death. During the quest chain to retrieve Medivh's journal, you collect pieces of the dead Arkanagos and bring him back to life, so that you may kill him and retrieve Medivh's lingering essence. Poor dragon, brought back to life just to be killed again. Nightbane is one of the few magma worms in game. Undead dragons of a fiery appearance. Most zombie dragons in game are frost worms, like Sindragosa. Actually, I'd say about 90% of them are. Number 7, Kasia. Who's Kasia, you might ask? Well, she's the mount of the obnoxious Death Knight from the famous quest, Welcome to the Machine, where you become a quest giver and hand out quests to 3 really dumb adventurers. After you send the Death Knight on a quest, the undead next to you says, "I hope he drowns." You later find the Orcus drowning in shallow water, and it's your job to tell him just to stand up. He'll then send you on a quest to heal his mount Kasia, who got hurt in a battle with the dwarf. After you heal Kasia, Orcus takes you with him to storm the dwarf's island and get revenge. During the last part of the quest, Orcus tells you to grab the secret plans while he buys time by attacking the elite mobs by himself. Then Kasia comes in and saves you both. On the ride back to the village, however, Orcus tells you to take care of Kasia for him and to find someplace cold for her to live. Then he dies on Kasia's back from his wounds. After you turn in the quest with the attack plans, Kasia hangs out in Torrenmill, flying around randomly, perching herself on top of buildings and hills. If you look at Kasia as a ghost, you can see Orcus riding Kasia as a ghost as well. An unexpectedly sad quest chain from a funny character. Number 6, Razorma. Razorma is more of a ghost than a zombie, so I'm breaking the rules on the list a little. 10,000 years ago, Ysera allowed a group of night elves to ride some of her dragons into battle, creating the first dragon riders. Deathwing didn't like this, and sent a group of black dragons led by Razorma to kill them all in their sleep. While Razorma did succeed in killing every last one of the dragon riders, he and many of his brood died in the battle. So now he just kinda circles around the area where he died. Number 5. Spine Stalker. I'll be honest, there's literally no lore on this mob. It's just one of the 2 zombie dragons you have to kill before taking on Sindragosa. He's really only on this list so I can use him to lead into my number 4 dragon, Rhymefang. Rhymefang first appears as Scourge Lord Tyrannus' mount in the Pit of Sauron, when he and Rhymefang kill all the adventurers as soon as they come through the portal. During the final fight in the dungeon, he runs off after Tyrannus is killed, after which Sindragosa comes along and kills everyone but you and Sylvanas. Or Jaina, if you're a Dirty Alliance player. Later, you meet up with Rhymefang again next to Spine Stalker in the Frost Halls before Sindragosa, where he's promptly killed as a trash mob. On a side note, the battle pet Frosty is actually Rhymefang resurrected by the Lich King. One can assume it was done after he was killed in ICC, but before the Lich King was then murdered shortly after. Number 3. Felmist, a Fell Dragon, and in fact the only Fell Dragon in the whole game. Felmist was actually Madragosa and froze off the path right before Pit Lord Brutalis so she could fight and get answers out of him on where her friends were.
Hold, friends. There's information to be had before this devil meets his fate. Where is Onvina, demon? What has become of Kalik?
Puny lizard! Death is the only answer you will find here.
You will tell me where they are.
Ah! Your magic is weak!
Speak. I grow weary of asking.
I will crush you!
Malygos, my lord. I did my best.
That was fun, but I still await a true challenge. Come, try your luck!
She is then killed by said Pit Lord, and becomes Felmist when the raid kills the Pit Lord, and his blood flows underneath Madragosa's body and turns it into a Fell Dragon. Interesting note, her Fog of Corruption spell is bugged currently and shows up in a random position instead of where she's actually facing and showing the attack animation. So if you're soloing the boss on a not max level tune and don't kill her before the air phase, you'll die. Number 2. Saffron. The original vanilla version of the Saffron fight followed the fantasy trope styles of making this frost undead dragon being completely immune to frost damage, and required frost resist gear for its frost aura. Lots of frost resist gear. Saffron originally appears in Warcraft 3 as a blue dragon that is killed by Arthas and raised by him personally to serve him. After assisting Arthas in his campaign, he is sent to help Kel'Thuzad to help guard Naxxramas. And finally, number 1.
The heroes have made it to the glorious finale. I take it you are in good spirits, prepared for the final battle. Then gaze now upon my ultimate creation. Rise, sister. Behold the broodmother, Onyxia, reborn. Perhaps my finest work.
Onyxia, the original dragon fight in WoW. Onyxia has had the pleasure of being killed 4 times, once in vanilla, again in Wrath as a boss, then as a memory in a dungeon, and the last time as an electrified zombie dragon. After she was killed, her brother Nefarian was nice enough to retrieve her head hanging above Stormwind and attach it to her body and bring her back to life, in one of the coolest raid fights ever implemented. In the fight, you have to fight both zombie Onyxia and Nefarian in a pit of lava. Onyxia in this fight is peculiar. You see, normally when fighting a dragon, you DPS from the sides as they have cleaves in front and tail lashes in the back. But zombie Onyxia has electrified orbs on her sides that stun players, leaving literally no safe spot to DPS. On top of that, you also had to fight her brother at the same time, you know, as well as dealing with ads that needed to be kited. Onyxia is probably the only zombie dragon in the game that doesn't have a skeleton-like appearance, and actually looks more like a zombie dragon. That's why she's number 1.